Have you ever felt just completely bewildered because a woman you're really interested in suddenly goes distant? Or maybe she starts acting way too casual out of nowhere. You probably assumed, well, her silence means she's moved on. But what if I told you that psychology actually suggests something completely different? What if this exact distance might actually be the absolute biggest proof of her deep attraction to you?
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're decoding a major mystery, the psychology of female attraction. We're going to uncover 7 hidden psychological signs that prove you're constantly on her mind, even when she's acting like she couldn't care less. You see, most guys completely misread these subtle signals, and because of that, they end up giving up at the exact moment her subconscious mind is actually working the hardest to process her feelings for them. So let's decode this mystery together and look at what her subconscious is really trying to tell you.
What is defensive avoidance?
Okay, let's dive into this. Defensive avoidance is a truly fascinating psychological reaction. It happens when someone deliberately pulls back and creates distance precisely because they are feeling deep attraction. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would she do that? Well, it's because deep attraction makes her feel incredibly vulnerable. It leaves her feeling unprotected. The fear of rejection and the fear of losing control of her own emotions, it genuinely terrifies her. So her brain literally tells her to retreat so she can regain that emotional control. The more she thinks about you, the more mentally restless she becomes, which leads her to act like she just doesn't care.
Section 2. Hidden Signs of Deep Attraction.
What's really interesting here is how these subtle behaviors of silent observation actually play out in reality. She's watching you when she thinks you aren't looking. She's noticing how you walk, how you react when you're happy, how you speak to other people. And if you happen to catch her looking from across the room, she's going to quickly dart her eyes away. That's not annoyance. That is her trying to hide her awareness because she just caught herself hyper-focusing on you. And in the digital world, it's the same thing. She's often the very first person to view your stories, operating kind of like a silent digital ninja so her feelings don't become public.
And this intense observation absolutely extends to her memory. Consider this incredibly powerful psychological truth. The human brain only stores information that is emotionally significant. Think about that for a second. If you casually mentioned some minor detail about, say, work stress or a little family story weeks ago, and she suddenly brings it up, pay attention. Her subconscious is holding on to these trivial details because you are deeply important to her. She has literally been replaying that passing conversation in her mind over and over again.
Then, you've got the inner circle giveaways. Look, women don't always declare their attraction directly to you, but they will absolutely leave clues with their close friends. If her friends start acting differently when you're around, like maybe they exchange these knowing smiles or shoot quick glances at each other or casually drop your name like you're already a regular fixture in their lives, you really need to pay close attention. That is a massive sign. It means you're not a stranger to them because you're already a frequent topic of conversation in her inner circle. You are deeply embedded in her mind.
Section 3. The Push-Pull Dynamic. Now we arrive at the cycle of connection. This push-pull dynamic is honestly one of the most frustrating things in modern dating. Here's how it works. In step 1, you have this great conversation. The energy is high, everything feels natural, it's totally vibrant. But then we hit step 2. That deep connection triggers her intense fear of vulnerability, which leads directly to step 3, where she pulls away into a long silence just to regain her emotional control. This push-pull game is a literal psychological battle happening inside her mind. Her desire is intensely drawing her toward you, but her fear of losing herself, that's pushing her away.
If you take absolutely nothing else away today, I want you to remember this. She didn't disappear because the conversation was bad. She disappeared because it was too good. Reaching out to you actually gave her peace, but as those feelings deepened, the fear kicked right in. So this sudden disappearance, it's not a rejection. It's actually concrete proof that connecting with you deeply disrupted her emotional equilibrium.
Section 4. Subtle Tests and Invisible Threads.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast in her behavior. Normally, when she's with friends or guys she isn't interested in, she's totally relaxed. She's calm, her energy flows without any restriction whatsoever. But around you, it's a completely different story. She might become unusually quiet and serious, or heavily guarded. Or maybe she goes the exact opposite route and becomes excessively chatty and nervous. Her nervous system is going on high alert, exclusively in your presence, because she desperately wants to avoid making a mistake. She's actively monitoring herself because you really matter to her.
Because she's feeling all this intense internal pressure, she's inevitably going to start subtly testing you. For example, if she mentions another man, You might immediately think she's trying to make you jealous. But her actual psychological goal is testing your emotional control. If she delays replying to your messages, you probably think she's ignoring you, right? Nope. She's testing to see if you panic or if you stay calm. If she cancels a plan, you assume she's uninterested, but she actually wants to see if you become angry. A woman who feels real attraction wants to ensure you are an emotionally safe, stable guy who isn't going to lose his temper over minor setbacks.
But even when she's creating all this distance and throwing tests your way, notice how she never completely shuts the door. She always maintains this invisible thread. She'll leave small reactions on your posts or maybe reach out via text on a special occasion, keeping you in her orbit without actually making any direct claims. Maintaining this invisible thread is not about playing games with you. She's actually trapped in a mental conflict. She knows that ending it completely would feel like a huge loss, but she's terrified of fully committing and just opening all her emotional doors just yet.
Section 5. The winning strategy.
0. That is the exact amount of success you are going to have if you try to force, pressure, or control a natural attraction. You simply cannot force her to move forward by demanding answers or constantly blowing up her phone or begging for her attention. The absolute moment you try to control the outcome, you turn that natural attraction into pressure. And let's be real, absolutely nobody falls in love when they feel like they are being managed or controlled.
So, the crucial point is this psychological principle. Attraction is not built by being overly available or chasing. It is built through absence and contrast. The man who remains silent gives her the space to process her own feelings and heavily focuses on his own life. He becomes utterly irresistible. When she finally realizes you aren't desperately chasing her, she's going to suddenly feel this overwhelming urge to reach out and choose you entirely on her own terms.
The ultimate attractive trait you can possibly display is emotional stability. You need to stand your ground. By not panicking when she pulls back, by not punishing her silence with anger, and by remaining a safe, calm harbor, you permanently secure your place in her mind. Your silence and stability create this profound echo inside her that she simply cannot ignore. At the end of the day, the man who stays emotionally steady, who doesn't require immediate validation or answers, is the one who ultimately wins. So I want to leave you with this thought. The next time she suddenly goes cold, are you going to panic and push her away? Or will you recognize the hidden signal of deep attraction for what it is and simply stand your ground? Thank you so much for exploring this with me on this explainer. Keep your heart and your mind balanced, and I'll catch you next time.